I am getting nervous. I'm going to say this right out of the gate. I am getting nervous about the NHL. I'm getting very nervous about the NHL because I've noticed the insiders, those that are really connected, including our good buddy Bob McKenzie. Bob had about a 15-tweet just episode earlier today that was dramatic. It was like a soap opera, and it did not make me feel warm and fuzzy. It made me feel anxious and nervous and completely uncertain. And I've noticed it has gone from if they play instead of when they play. Like for about a month there, it was, when they're back and everything's all good, we're in phase 2, July 10, let's get this happening. Now I'm hearing a lot of if they play, and I don't think it's about concerns over COVID. Like, there were some more positive tests that have been revealed earlier this afternoon. The NHL announced, I think they've tested over 250 players, and I think in total 26 came back with a positive test, and that's concerning. But COVID, we knew that was going to be a hurdle. We knew that COVID was still going to be out there come July 10th or July 30th and wherever they end up playing, and we still don't know yet. But this is purely economical now. Like, Artemi Panarin is the NHL's version of Blake Snell. He is Trevor Bauer. He laid it out there on Instagram. This has nothing to do with safety precautions. This has everything to do with leverage and money and the economy and the uncertainty of the future. And let's be honest, Gary Bettman and company, they do not deserve optimism if we're talking about a CBA negotiation. Why do they deserve people to feel good about that? I certainly don't, based on their track record.
Right. And listen, I've lived their track record. I don't want to run the numbers of what 2004 cost me, okay? Like, I see them in my nightmares still. So I know all about it. But and I am a pro player guy. I was in the PA. I was a player rep, all that full disclosure. If you have a system that has a share of HRR 50-50, there has to be a mechanism. So I get the escrow complaint, and I get why it's terrible. And I understand why players don't like it, Artemi Panarin included. But it doesn't matter. If you're going to link your salaries to revenue, then you need some mechanism to get to be 50-50. If players want to be concerned about escrow, they should be more concerned about, one, trying to get a bigger share. Not the escrow mechanism, but a bigger share. So if you try to get to 51% or 52%, or maybe more importantly and easier, have a better, more broad definition of what constitutes hockey revenue. Naming rights and expansion fees and whatever different things are out there. That's where you should go and focus your energy, not on trying to eliminate escrow, because that's not going to ever happen. But the reason why, Brian, you should feel less pessimistic, I'm not going to say optimistic, but less pessimistic about the state of CBA negotiations is that the NHL has never attempted to negotiate at a time like this. Right, but the players have never had more leverage than they do right now. And I don't even blame the players. How much leverage do they have? Well, they can say we're not playing. That's going to be an embarrassment for the NHL. This is exactly what baseball went through. Only that was public. So baseball, they got crushed because Blake Snell was popping off on Twitch and Trevor Bauer's popping off on Twitter and Randall Grichuk's tweeting the world about how awful everyone is. And it was going back and forth and back and forth. And we all said this is awful for baseball. This is awful for the brand. It appears to me the same thing's going on here with the NHL, only it's not public. The only one that went public was Panarin. But it appears to me as if the players are like, we're not coming back unless we get a new CBA. Like, let's figure this out. Because we're not coming in blind to this return to play until we figure this out. And why do they have to be linked? Like, why do you – there's 2 years left on the CBA. Why do you have to negotiate it right now? You don't. You don't, unless the players are like, Well, and I don't even blame the reason why they're doing it, though, is the players are saying, listen, because – and this is where you're right. It would be a bad look and bad for everyone if the players sat out. This falls apart because they don't negotiate a new CBA that still has 2 years left on it. That looks terrible. Sure, awful it does. But the question I have, and this is what I'd ask the players, and it is terrible, and if you're willing to eat, what do you think escrow is going to be next year if they don't come back? What do you think escrow is going to be for this year? Huge. If they're willing to have escrow be 37% before taxes, then have at it. Like, that is their right, and for sure, whether it's CBA-related issue or health-related issue, go get them. Go get them and fight your fight. And I'm totally cool with that. But don't make it seem like it's only on the owners. It will be a bad look. You know what the escrow will be next year when they don't play this year and they come into play in empty stadiums and the owners want, like, it'll be 60%. And so unless the players want to sit out indefinitely, which we know they don't, I lived it. I sat out a year, and we did not have the appetite for any more than that. So, yeah, there was a lot of moaning and groaning in baseball. But what happened at the end of the day?
They figured it out.
They figured it out.
And I hope
yeah,
they do
and there's
here.
been some, and there'll be some guys who opt out. What basketball? There's been a lot of discussion about should we not? What happened at the end of the day? Figured it out.
Yep.
And there'll be some guys who miss. And the same thing is going to happen in hockey because it almost has to. There is too much to lose for everyone. And maybe the league has a little bit more to lose right now than they are used to, which might make them more accommodating to de-link for a couple, 3-4 years and cap escrow and flatten the cap and maybe not necessarily have it tied exactly to revenues because of what's going to happen to revenues. They are going to plummet in the next little bit.
Yep.
But I still think, like the other sports, and we may hear it, and we may hear some, you know what, we won't even hear it. There's no time to hear it. They have to go to camp in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you've got a
couple
of weeks to
figure it out. So I think no one will be happy. We've said it a million times. There is no perfect solution, but I still think there's a lot on the line for all parties, and that's generally a good atmosphere to get a deal done.
And I will be consistent with this. I think, both parties have a lot at stake. Both parties are going to lose something based on the world we live in right now. Like, that's just a reality. So both sides are going into it, whether it's the owners or the players, knowing we're not going to be made whole here. We're not going to make all the money we thought we were going to make because there aren't going to be fans in the stands. And massive companies are not, spending the way that they were spending 6 months ago. They might come back in a year or a year and a half or 2 years, but I think everyone is bracing for a windfall here. And I give both sides enough credit for them to know that and understand that. But when it came to baseball, I said, both parties are at risk here of looking bad. Both parties should find a way to make this work. But I said it was more imperative that the owners and the commissioner make that work. And I will apply that same logic here to the NHL. Like, it is on the owners to find a way to appease the players. Now, the players have to be realistic, right? Like, to your point, you can't demand the world. You're not going to get it. But I don't think that they are. I'd find that hard to believe that they would be. But I think it's on Bettman and company, and especially Gary Bettman. He is the lockout commissioner. He is the lockout commissioner. And if this doesn't happen, I don't get the sense it's because of safety concerns, right? Like, based on what Bob was tweeting, this is about working out a new CBA on the fly here. They've had 3 months to do it. I'm sure they've been working on it. It sounds like a lot of heavy lifting has already been accomplished here. But if they can't get it across the finish line and they come out and say, sorry, guys, we can't play because we couldn't work out the economics, they are no different than baseball. Like, and they should be treated as such. And people should be furious. And I hope they both understand that. Like, they got to figure this out.
Yeah,
and I think they will. I hope they will. But I was, 2 weeks ago, I was convinced they're playing. Now I can't say I'm 100% convinced, and I'm not happy about that. I'm not overly enthralled with that.
In the wrong direction, right?
Exactly.
And this is where, I'm kind of arguing both sides of my mouth, but I like, there is a massive time crunch, and they were working on a CBA extension, which was unrelated to the pandemic.
To COVID, yeah.
So, like, they're trying to switch gears on the fly and make up amendments that somehow take into consideration something that no one's ever considered, and have it work for 6 years. It sounds like it's going to be 4 years on top of the next couple. And to do, like, it takes, now listen, you can get a memorandum of understanding done shortly, but the details that it takes to put a CBA together takes months.
A long time. Yep.
And, like, again, they are in camp a week Friday.
Right.
With 11 days away. So guys have to get to their countries or cities. Guys have to go through a potentially federally mandated quarantine when they get there. And then they got to get on the ice and they got to get started testing negative, and none of this, 25 out of 400 players or whatever the numbers are. So it's a lot. I still think it's going to be okay. There may be some rocky patches in the way to get there, but I still think everyone appreciates there's a lot to lose, and they'll get there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I hope you're right.
Less guaranteed than before, but still
that's the only thing
bullish.
Holding me up here is if we're dealing with a CBA negotiation, I am going to base my opinion and my stance on history. And history has told me Gary Bettman can't get it done in time. and that's just the fact. He has locked out the players. They couldn't work out deals too many times in the past. It is the blackest mark on his resume. It's the asterisk beside his name, and it will be forever.
Depends who you ask. You ask the owner, it's
true.
not an asterisk.
Yeah, that's
it's a
30
check.
guys.
It's a bonus.
But you talk to the fans, and that's who we're talking about here. We're talking about your fans and trying to appease people. And I understand it's a business. That's why they're working this out. And it kind of feels like karma in a way, because I think the players have felt like they've been burned in the past, and now they're sitting here saying, okay, maybe we can push back a little bit. Maybe we do understand that there is urgency here for the league to make sure that they play, to make sure that they appease their partners.
Yeah.
And they got to be careful with that, because if you blow this up, then you're going to lose even more money. You know, both sides are going to lose money. And if you blow it up and then Bettman goes, okay, let's really lock in here and see where we go, who knows what's going to happen. And again, I hope it doesn't get to that point. The reports have indicated both sides have been really actually treating each other well and trying to work this out, and they both have a goal in mind. They just got to get there. They got to get there.
You say that as though that's like the bar to. They've been treating each other well, but given the history, that is a
it says
that is a sign of progress.
That's a news item. Like that's a headline. That's clickbait. About both sides are actually treating each other well. Click on this
Conversations
article.
seem to be productive.
Yeah, but they got to figure it out, because again, if it all blows up because they can't work out the economics and the dollars and cents, that's a bad look. You know, if it's because of safety precautions, because of COVID, that's something everyone will accept and understand. And I think we're all kind of, you know, we're tightroping right now in terms of the NBA, in terms of the NFL, in terms of the NHL. It's dicey with the numbers down in the States, and that is a totally different conversation. But if it's about money and the economics and escrow and all that, that's a different story.